Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We're going to get kicked off here in a couple minutes. For those of you that have already joined, what I'd like you to do is in the comments in the chat section, I'm going to be covering a lot of information today, but if you have one kind of burning LinkedIn question that you might have today that you want to make sure you walk out of the next hour with, go ahead and please throw that up into the chat, and I'll put it on my list to make sure that I get that covered. And again, I'll share my screen in a minute here, and we'll get things going. All right, we got a few more people joining. Just going to wait a couple more minutes here, make sure we get everybody. Again, if you have a certain question you'd like to ask me that you want to make sure I want to cover over the course of the webinar, go ahead and feel free to throw that up into the chat box, and I'll be sure to make a note of it. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and kick things off. Looks like we're getting a good amount of people into the room now. And I'll tell you, I've done this presentation live probably about 50 times, but this is my first webinar. So everybody be easy on me. I'm excited to do it and record it. I want to appreciate and send thanks out to my hosts at Big Marker and Paradigm Next for promoting this and putting it on. So I'm going to be toggling quite a bit today between screens, between different LinkedIn screens, and then also a Word document that I'm going to put up and kind of use as a whiteboard as we go through everything. So, to kind of cover what we're going to go over today, we're going to go over some profile highlights, talk some ideas around posting, then dive into some best practices around prospecting, how to use groups, how to leverage that second degree network, and then talk about some etiquette. Yeah, I spelled it right. That's a word I have trouble with every now and then. And then some technology tools to go around LinkedIn. Okay. So, first and foremost, let's talk about the premise for why we're doing this, right? LinkedIn over the last 10 years has come to dominate the professional networking space. And what used to be a place just to park your resume and have recruiters find you, while it's still good for that, it has now become a place where people kind of help develop their personal and professional brand. There's a lot of talk out there about this idea of personal branding, and LinkedIn, for all intents and purposes, is your professional landing site. When I see people with maybe incomplete or unprofessional LinkedIn pages, it's certainly a reflection about how seriously I'm going to take them as a business person, because I think it's a reflection of how you take business yourself, right? Are you keeping up to speed on the latest technologies? Are you keeping your finger on the pulse of what's happening in your industry? So I'm going to jump back here, make sure we don't have any other questions. Talking about in-mails. If doing endorsements, we'll certainly cover that. And I'll also talk about the difference between like free versus paid, okay? Which is a question I get quite a bit. And I'll tell you, by the end of the hour today, my hopes is that I have taught you how to suck dry the free version of LinkedIn, because that's what I try to do. So I'm going to go ahead and use Anatoly Nursberg's profile to go through here today. So this first part, I'm going to go top to bottom on a profile and tell you what I feel the most important pieces are, okay? So Anatoly, if you're listening out there, I might give you a few pointers on how to polish this up, though I'll tell you it's looking pretty good. So first, this background here. LinkedIn allows you to put a backdrop. I love, being a Chicago native, I as well have a picture of our skyline. If it's something that relates to your industry, that's great. Just keep in mind that 40% of it is going to be blocked out down here with this, with your main contact picture and name and everything. As far as your picture goes, I tell you the things what not to do. Don't have it be the picture from the last wedding that you attended. That's usually the picture that I see out here. And though I'm sure you look very nice, a lot of times what I'll see is half of a head in the picture or the floating arm in the background. So have a nice professional headshot. That can be taken easily with your iPhone standing up against the wall of your office. But I like to be able to see people's eyes and their face and their personality come through in a picture when they're presenting themselves. As far as your name goes, just a couple things here. I've had a couple people say they like to do it in all capital letters, which helps it pop out a little bit. And the other thing you can do is there's a spot in there for you to put a middle name. Sometimes people will put their phone number or their email, which if you're in a direct sales role, I think this is great because if somebody searches your name, your phone number immediately pops up. But if I search Anatoly here, what do you see? You see their picture, their name, and their title. So the title is the next thing I want to talk about. This is the first place in your profile where you can start adding keywords into your profile. Step back for a second. Another reason why LinkedIn is so important is because Google loves LinkedIn. They know it is a place where people are going to consistently update their profiles, so they know it's up-to-date information. So if any of you were to Google your name right now, LinkedIn is probably going to be one of the first things that comes up on that search, unless you've done something maybe kind of weird. I don't know, but your LinkedIn is going to be right up there. So going back to your title, what you don't want to do, and what I see a lot of people doing, is simply putting their title and their company name. So, account manager at XYZ company or CFO at ABC company. This is a spot where, again, here Anatoly puts marketing, innovation, and new venture consultant. It gives me a nice snapshot. I'm going to pop over to mine. I have sales optimist, human capital management, and my sales drummer blog, which I like to promote, right? So you can put these dividing lines in here or slash marks, or as Anatoly has it, just some commas, but you have something like 120 characters here to get across some sort of a message at the blink of an eye. Again, this is the first thing that people see when they search your name, okay? Scrolling down a little bit, I'm going to cover these two tabs of relationship and contact info. Now, a lot of companies do not empower their sales reps in giving them some sort of a CRM database like Salesforce or Zoho. If you don't have something, or even if you do, LinkedIn is a spot where you can really capture a lot of this data. So for example, if I do want to put a note in of our last meeting when we met, or any personal notes, names of his kids, names of his dog, his favorite sports team, whatever it might be, I'm going to put in this note section. I can set reminders to call him in a day, a week, a month, or recurring, all right? And LinkedIn will actually email you. Put a note, I've been using probably this one the most, of how you met. And then lastly, you can tag people with certain things. So for example, I used to work with a lot of nonprofits. So, one thing I could have done is create a nonprofit tag in here to mark those type of people. You can see, you can have classmates, colleagues, prospects. You might want to make a tag of, this person's at a networking event, and you mark them as somebody I never need to talk to again, tag. However you want to do it. I'm going to show you later how you can pull reports based on the tags that you do. But I think this is a good one if you have networking partners that work in certain sectors, tech, manufacturing, nonprofit, whatever it might be, and you tag them. So if you have an opportunity where you can make a referral, you can pull up people that you know work in that type of a space. Next thing I'll go here is contact info. Right here, always use your work email address. Get rid of your Hotmail, Gmail, AOL, whatever it might be. You can have it in there, but have your primary show up as your work. Here, Anatoly has taken the step to personalize his LinkedIn, I'll call it your vanity URL. This is really easy to change. If you're in your profile right now and when you go to it, there'll be a little gear that shows up right here. If you click on that, you can go and customize it, because if you don't, it just becomes this long string of alphanumeric characters. And again, this is one of these little things that I think people notice that'll help polish up the profile. Websites. LinkedIn allows you to add 3 websites here at the bottom. And again, I'm going to jump over to my profile just so I can kind of show you this. If I'm editing my profile, and I go down here to websites, you'll see the names of the websites to come up. You can choose personal website, company, blog, but always choose other, because that allows you to write in the name of your company. And then when it shows up here, and again, now go back to Anatoly, you can see Paradigm Next actually shows up as a hyperlink. Again, small thing, adds a little bit of polish. Last thing on this is I can actually go in and edit his contact information. So if I wanted to put maybe a different email or add an email for Anatoly, I can do that. If I wanted to put in an additional phone number, his office number or cell phone, which is actually already in here, I can add that, okay? And only I am going to see that. Next, I'm going to go down to the summary section, all right? So you have something like 2,000 characters in the summary section to get your message across. I don't suggest ever using 2,000 characters in your message. Now, there's 2 schools of thoughts on this. One, it can be written in first person, or it can be written in third person. I highly suggest writing it in first person. Third person can maybe come across as impersonal, really. I always say that if I can't be sitting across the table from someone sharing my story and learning about them, when they visit my summary section in my LinkedIn profile, I want them to feel as though they're sitting across the table from me. You know, LinkedIn, this is the section in the summary section where you can really strike a personal chord with your audience. So some key things to think about, and I'm going to jump over here to my quote-unquote notepad here. When you're looking at the summary, you want to, again, I think first person is definitely the way to go. Next, I want to see a mix of personal and professional. There's this great talk that I'm going to suggest that you watch, a TED Talk. I'm sure some of you are familiar with this, by a guy named Simon Sinek. And it's called Why Great Leaders Inspire. I suggest you write that down and take a look at it. What he talks about is most people know what they do, they know how they do it, but they don't know why they do it. They don't connect with their personal reason why. You know, for example, I ended up in sales. Why am I doing what I do? That TED Talk would be a good primer for you as you go to maybe rewrite your summary a little bit, because you want some of that messaging. If I'm reading your summary, I want to know, why is it you do what you do? Why do you love your company, your job? What do you get out of it? All right. And then the last piece on a summary section is a call to action. At the bottom of that profile, that summary section, you want to have something that's an invitation to connect. You know, like, hey, if you like what I've had to say and you think we could be a resource for one another, please reach out, say hello, let's link up and see where the conversation leads us. Something along those lines. So I think the summary section really is probably the most critical section of the summary, because honestly, this is what I read, and then the rest of the profile, I'm quickly glancing at as I'm getting to know somebody. All right. Experience section. You Here, I don't have extremely strong opinions, and I'll tell you why. I already told you why, because I think the summary section is where it's really key. But I think where you want to have the most is where your current role is. And again, you want to have a mix of what the company does and then your specific role. I think that's pretty straightforward. And I like the way Anatoly has this broken up into kind of digestible paragraphs. This is borderline and is talk about paradigm here. It might be beneficial to break this into maybe 2 paragraphs, again, just to make it easier on the eyes. And then, when you're setting up your profile, I think it's pretty easy. When you start typing in your company name, you'll be able to link your company page to the section so the logo shows up, which again, I think is important because it allows people to quickly go and follow Paradigm next so I can see everything that they're posting as well. I'm going to keep going down here. Now, as you notice with Anatoly, he's actually got a few roles that he's currently in. I'm going to jump over to my profile so I can show you this. But LinkedIn allows you to move different sections around in the summary. So for example, here is my additional information section. I put it right up here, just underneath my summary. And if I wanted to move my summary section down, though I wouldn't suggest it, I can take that and just grab it. I just left click and hold it down, and I can move that. What I was going to say is once you're in your experience section, the other thing you can do, and I'm kind of like Anatoly, I have a few different roles here. I can take a certain section on this left-hand side, and I can just move, for example, this down to underneath my other role. So if you sit on a board or involved in some sort of a nonprofit, one, I think it's important you put it out there. Again, this helps me strike a personal chord with you as I'm looking at your profile. And again, just play around with how you want things to line up in your profile. So I'm going to keep scrolling down here. Skill section. Somebody asked about endorsements here. Now, I think endorsements are kind of funny because I don't know about you guys, but I get endorsed sometimes from people that I worked with maybe 10 years ago, and they endorsed me for startups or marketing or strategy. And while I greatly appreciate that, I can't say that it's a really relevant vouch, so to speak. With that said, I think the things that you're known for naturally are going to bubble to the top of the skill section. But it does go in here, and I'm not going to jump over to my profile, but you can go in and edit these things. Let's say you change industries altogether. You can go in here and pull certain things out that you maybe not want to be known for any longer. And these automatically stack rank by number of endorsements, but I can move other things to the top there if I want to get endorsements for, say doing LinkedIn webinars. Maybe I'll add that and see how many of you endorse me when this is all said and done. Additional info. He has his personal details here. One thing you notice on mine is the other thing you can add is an interest section. Again, I think this is important to include a few personal interests. I'm kind of a hard on my sleeve type of guy, so I might be an overshare sometimes, but these are pretty harmless things. But again, it allows me, I like to play golf, I like to play drums, I like photography. So if I find other people with those common interests, and I'm going to talk about that later during the saved searches, I think it's important to put it out there. Also, this advice for contacting person, I need to change this. And LinkedIn allows you to put your phone number or your email address here. They used to not allow that. Now they do. I'm going to just jump over here to the page really quick. Oh, Anatoly, thank you for sharing that Simon Sinek talk. That's awesome. All right. Going down a little bit further, recommendations. Love recommendations, and a couple different things here. I think I have maybe 20 recommendations. Coincidentally, I think I've given 20 recommendations, and that's not all to the same people, tit for tat type of thing. I'm just saying if you want recommendations, put it out there and go give people recommendations. If you want to be endorsed for certain skills, go out and then endorse people, right? The more you give, the more you get. But with recommendation section, I think what's great about it is, one, you can approve it before it actually gets put up there. But then what I like to do, again, I'm a guy that's always worked in sales. I will pull certain recommendations off of my LinkedIn profile, and then I'll insert it into my proposals. So one might be an entire page that's just recommendation after recommendation of working specifically with you or with your firm. Or if you have a proposal that's many pages, maybe you create a text box within that proposal page, and it's a quote from one of your customers. Maybe it's not the entire paragraph here, but just this. Thanks to interpersonal skills, relations with both, everybody's happy. I think that's really great and powerful, but use LinkedIn as a place to house all of these recommendations. We'll get to connections in a second. One thing I'll point out here is note that if you are connected, like Anatoly and I are, I can see his 500 plus. We have almost 50 shared. He's got 3 new, but I can go in and just search his connections. So at a quick search of, I'll just put in VP of Sales, for example, because those are good people for me to connect with. I can very quickly see how many VPs of Sales, or if I do something like this, VP of Sales or Vice President of Sales. Maybe I get a few more results. I do. Now I jumped up to 28 results, and I can kind of screen through those. Again, I'm not going to jump ahead. We'll come back to the power of that a little bit later. Groups. LinkedIn allows you to join up to 50 groups. Let's scroll down here. 50. It's a lot of groups. However, I suggest that you join 50 groups. I'm going to lump them into 3 main categories: peers, prospects, and alumni. Now, there's all sorts of different subgroups on LinkedIn, and some are closed and some are open, but I'm broadly putting them into these 3 categories, okay? Peers, prospects, and alumni. Now, I went to Purdue University, so my alumni network, pretty huge. If you went to a tiny, tiny school, maybe that's not going to be as relevant, but there's something pretty powerful about an alumni network. Now, I'm going to click over because Anatoly and I are both in this group, Sales Best Practices. And I'm going to show you something. Now, LinkedIn, in fact, they're going through a lawsuit. It just got announced a couple days ago that they email people too much. And Lord knows that's true. And I'm going to show you a trick here on how to make sure you don't get inundated by LinkedIn. So after you join these groups, I tell you, I look for number of members. That's a lot of members, 264,000. That is a massive group. That's great. But I'm going to click on this little gear that's right here. And I'm going to uncheck this box. And you can see I already have it unchecked. Send me a digest of all activity. If you do not uncheck this box, LinkedIn will spam you constantly and you will curse my name. You'll be like, why did I ever listen to Tony telling me to join 50 groups? But I'm telling you, uncheck that box. I think I get notifications from 3 groups that I'm most interested. 1 peer group, 1 prospect group, which for me actually is the same, and 1 for my Purdue alumni. Now, the other default check mark that is here is this one right here, and it's a lovely thing. Member messages. Allow members of this group to send me messages via LinkedIn. And this is a prospecting technique that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. So do yourself a favor, go and search groups. And the way you find groups, I haven't talked about this search bar up here, but I can go here and I can search people, jobs, companies, groups, all right? And then I'll specifically pull up, again, if I wanted a VP of Sales group, I'm probably already in it, but it's going to pull up everything that I want, okay? Following. You can follow anybody on LinkedIn. You could follow me. You could follow Anatoly. You could follow competitors. You could follow your company, and you should. And I would suggest following all 4 of those examples, all right? Most importantly, following your competitors. Following your competitors works on many levels. 1, it allows you to see what they're talking about. If there's a competitor that you respect or that's held, has a very high standard in the marketplace, chances are they have good activity on LinkedIn. And if they post something that you really, really like, steal it. Wait, there's a better word for stealing it. Use it, borrow it, leverage it, whatever it might be. But if they're posting something that's really relevant, that's a value add, let's take it out to your network, right? As long as it's maybe not a direct blog post that's on their website, it's a third-party thing, I say take it and use it if it's good, all right? There's nothing better than the power of crowdsourcing with LinkedIn, and LinkedIn knows that. So I'm going to talk about posting next on that note, because that's one of the places that I get information on how to post, all right? So let's talk about that. New page. Let's talk about posting. So I've heard the statistic 60 to 70%. If you want to connect your 60 to 70% of your LinkedIn network, you need to post 20 times a month. Now, what does that equate to? That almost means once a day, right? 4 or 5 times a week. I think the best time to post is 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning, lunchtime, and any time between 4 and I'll call it about 5:30 at night, okay? Now, what to post? It's a good question. I have a rule, a ratio, if you will, of 4 to 1, okay? For every 4 posts that you do, only 1 can be about you, right? And how great you are, or how awesome your company is, or this case study, or this client testimonial, okay? The other 3 have to be, I'll use the phrase again, finger on the pulse of what's happening in your industry, right? Thought leadership. Any type of value add information. You want to be, LinkedIn can build you up to be perceived as an industry expert. And don't we all want to have that status in the eyes of our prospects and potential customers, right? So, where do I get stuff to post? One, my trusty go-to are Google Alerts, all right? I set up Google Alerts for, again, things like Vice President of Sales or sales recruiting or sales consulting. These are things that I do and are in my industry. So if news gets released on that, I want to get alerted to it and know right away. Second, I follow companies and competitors, like I talked about. The other thing you can do, we'll just call them industry rags, right? These would be things like Entrepreneur Magazine, Fast Company, Inc., Bloomberg, whatever it might be. But I'm using that to my benefit to pull information there that is good. And the last place I go to is one of my new favorite websites, is Newsly.com. All right, that's one to write down and to sign up for later. Newsly, you can link it in with your LinkedIn network, and anytime one of your first-degree connections gets mentioned in a blog post or just out there on the information superhighway, you're going to get a notification. So I get an email probably every 2 or 3 days with news that's happening in my network. And then what I'll do, I'll use this example, is I had a contact that did a bike ride across America this summer, San Francisco to Chicago, 2,000 miles, whatever it was. And he got picked up in the US by the USA Today going through a small town. Got a whole write-up, super cool. So I went on here, and it was for the Illinois Fatherhood Initiative. So I tagged David Hirsch, I tagged Illinois Fatherhood Initiative, and then I posted the article. And that's pretty easy to do, to post something. Sometimes it doesn't work in a Google Chrome browser, but a lot of times you can tag people in the post. Oh, there we go. So I can tag Anatoly here, Paradigm Next, right? You can tag people in posts. Thanks for hosting today. And then if I wanted to, I'm just going to use LinkedIn here as an example. I'm going to cut and paste that, put it in there, and it's going to pull up put a snapshot of that post, all right? So now what happens is if I were to post this right now, I'm not going to, but it would show up in Anatoly's newsfeed, it would show up in Paradigm Next newsfeed, and it's going to show up in mine. So by tagging people and using that tool Newsly, you can help spread the love a little bit, so to speak. Another thing is you can upload images here. Maybe you want to do a quote of the day every Friday or an inspirational thing on Monday. I think that stuff is totally fine. Or things that might show, again, a little bit of personality, I'm totally fine with. And then LinkedIn has this published post. I won't dive into this too much, but really what the published post is LinkedIn's blogging platform and allows you to put out original content. You can see Anatoly right here has put out a few of these. And whether it's promoting events, giving some insight on the industry, I'm sure you see the notifications pop up here on the right-hand side of these little flags, right, when people publish a new post. So it's just another way to get out there in front of your network, going back to that 4-to-1 ratio of just engaging with people, okay? I'm going to jump back here, make sure I'm not missing anything. Again, Anatoly, you've done it. You'll have to share that story with me another time. 27,000 miles or 2,756 miles. That's awesome. All right, now let's talk about prospecting. That's what everybody wants to know about usually. How do I connect? I'm going to show you a few ways here, but I'm going to go back to this example of VP of Sales. All right, these are good contacts for me. So I searched VP of Sales, and I just want to see people. All right, and it's going to show me here first degree, second degree. I only want to see second degree connections because I already know my first degree ones. So let's say Laura here looks like a perfect connection for me. All right, she's Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Allsbridge. So there's a few different ways that I can connect with Laura here. One is, if you see on this right-hand side here, LinkedIn has this Get Introduced feature. My suggestion to you is never, ever use it. I don't like it. I think it's kind of clunky and impersonal. So I'm going to show a few other ways I like to do it. So I'm going to click on Laura's profile here. Now, one thing I can do is simply click Connect. If I'm ever reaching out cold to somebody, and I don't always suggest this, and we'll talk a little bit more about this idea, but if I'm going to do this, I'm probably going to give her some context before I connect. So actually, let me back up a second here. So I'm going to scroll. I see she's posted a couple things, has a nice summary. Looks like she's probably on LinkedIn quite a bit. She has 500 plus connections. I'm going to scroll way down here and see we have 4 mutual connections. Now, out of these 4 people, I probably know Russ the best. I used to work with him at ADP back in the day, okay? But I haven't talked to him in probably a couple years. So I'm going to look here, see what group she's in too. Let's see. Any same groups as her? I don't think so. But I'm going to try and find a common thread, okay, is where I'm going with this. But if I click Connect, I'm going to say, hey, we've done business together at my current role, and I'm going to delete this message. I'm going to pause here for a second and tell you my #1 LinkedIn pet peeve. And it's when people don't do what I just did and delete that message. I don't care if you're connecting with your mother on LinkedIn. Always personalize this request. You have 300 characters here to give context to the connection, all right? And I'm going to give you my formula when I'm doing a cold outreach like this, all right? So this is a LinkedIn outreach, my 3-step formula, all right? 1, I'm going to do some sort of I'll call it an ego stroke or give that context. I may say something like, hey, Laura, Love the looks of your profile. I love connecting with good people in the sales and marketing world. All right, I'm just going to give her a little context. Or, maybe I see, I didn't notice maybe what college. Maybe she went to a fellow Big Ten school, and I could make a joke about, being Big Ten friends and foes. Second thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to use the exact phrase, here is why I'm reaching out. That lets her know I'm getting straight to the point. Hey, here's why I'm reaching out. Based on your profile, you look like exactly the type of person that I've done work with in the past, and maybe we can help each other out. Right? Something soft like that, but it's certainly not a sales pitch. Like, hey, I'm reaching out so I can sell you something. Or I'm reaching out because I think you could really use what our company does. You have to have a softer approach there, all right? But you use that phrase, here's why I'm reaching out. And the third thing, and again, exact phrasing here, if you're open to a conversation, please link back and let's talk. This phrase right here has gotten me more meetings than you can imagine. If you're open to a conversation. It's soft enough, but it's an invitation. Quite frankly, sometimes if people are not at least open to a conversation, perhaps there's somebody that you don't want to do business with anyway. But I'll tell you, this cold outreach approach works for me probably about a third of the time, because I'm doing it in a very targeted way. And I'll show you a little bit more about that targeting here in a second. So that's one way I could do is I could just flat cold outreach, okay? Second thing you can do, and what I would probably do in this case, is I can hover over Russ here and I can click send a message and I can email Russ. And I can say, hey Russ, hope all has been well. Hey, I see you're connected to Laura here at Allsbridge. Can you make an intro? Let me know. So that's the second way to do it. But I'll tell you my favorite way to do it. And that is taking online networking that we have in here we're talking about and moving it offline and picking up the phone. All right? I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call Russ. Because again, I told you I hadn't talked to Russ. It's probably been more than 2 years. It's probably been more like 4 years. But he was a great guy. I knew him at ADP. There's a reason for me to pick up the phone because it accomplishes two things. One, it allows me to reconnect with Russ, right? He's probably changed jobs. I've changed jobs since then. And it's just good to bolster those connections of your first degree network. Secondly, when I say, hey man, the reason I was calling you is I see that you're connected to Laura Mersinger. Do you know her well enough to facilitate an intro? And you're going to know within 2 seconds because Russ, in this case, is either going to say, who? He's going to have no idea who she is. Or he's going to say, oh my gosh, that's my best friend's wife, and of course, I just saw her last weekend, right? You're going to get, those are the two polar ends of the spectrum of what type of an answer you're going to get, but you're going to know immediately how well that person knows the person you're trying to connect with. So pick up the phone, all right? Now, groups is another thing. I want to scroll down here to Laura again, just on the off chance that she's in the world of sales. Maybe I didn't see it. I want to see, yeah, here we go. Network after work. We are. This one has 66,000 members right here. All right. Now, I'm going to get Laura's name here, Laura Mersinger. And now I'm in this group section. And you need to pay attention here. I'm here. I'm going to click on search. And you notice a new tab pops open right here, members. I'm going to click members. And now I can search 66,000 members. I'm going to put in her name. Boom, up comes Laura. If you remember from 10 minutes ago, what did I say about joining groups? This is the default setting in LinkedIn groups. I now can try to reach out with Laura a different way. I can send her a direct email. And this is going to pull up here in the LinkedIn inbox. And it's going to be a direct message. And now, unlike the LinkedIn connection request, I have all the space in the world to type Laura a message, and I'm not using the LinkedIn paid in-mails to do it. All right? I'm simply putting that. Now, I'll tell you, my formula when I'm reaching out is pretty similar to this one. I'm giving some context as to why I'm reaching out, right? Or maybe tying something personal from her profile. Maybe I noticed that she's a golfer too, or that she likes long walks on the beach. I don't know. I'm giving some sort of a personal connection. I tell her why I'm reaching out, and then I say, hey, if you're open to a conversation, you know, maybe it's not link back, it's please write back and let's talk. You know, who knows where the conversation might lead us. But right there, going back to why you join 50 groups, that's it right there, is you can connect with like-minded people in those groups. And again, this approach of reaching out through groups has worked for me, I would say more than a third of the time, but less than half the time. I couldn't give you exact percentages. All right. So that are a couple prospecting techniques. I'm going to jump back here. Chat. Okay. Now I want to talk about saved searches. All right. So I'm back here on my home screen. All right. I'm going to click Advanced Search right here on the right-hand side. And this box is going to pop up. So there's a technique called Boolean search. And all of you are on the call today, I'm going to give a copy of it. In fact, Anatoly, you've been all over it. If you Google LinkedIn Boolean search, and that's B-O-O-L-E-N, you pull up a document that talks about search techniques, but it's basically using quotes and parentheses and the use of capital A-N-D and capital O-R when doing a search. So for example, I'm going to search, let's say I want to connect with business owners, or you want to connect with business owners, and maybe you're joining me as we do this here. I'm going to do keyword CEO, capital A-N-D, or actually, excuse me, I'm going to use or. CEO or president or founder, or I'm going to put this in quotes so I capture the exact phrase, managing partner. All right? So I want to get a search that has, those people have one of those four things in their title. On relationship, I'm going to do second degree and group members. All right? And then location, I don't know about you, I'm here in Chicago. I want to stay in Chicago. So I'm going to put in a zip code there for Chicago and just say I want to stay downtown within 10 miles. Oop. So I got 3,871 results. Maybe I want to slim that down a little bit. All right. I don't want to include first degree. No. Maybe I just want certain industries. All right. So maybe I just want architecture and arts and crafts. I don't know. But you know what? Sorry about that. I'm going to start over here. I lost my search. Do it really quick. Let's do CEO or founder. I'm going to throw you for a loop. I'm going to put golf and golf. CEO or founder and golf because I'm a golfer. I want to connect with second. Oh, man. Sorry, people. This isn't being friendly to me. CEO or founder. I want second degree or group members. And I want them just in my zip code, downtown. All right. Now I'm going to click search. So I got 25,000 results. This is for CEO or founder. I'm going to add golf in there. Now I have 785 results. All right. These are second degree connections and group members, and they have these things. So now in theory, I'm connecting with people that have golf somewhere on their profile. Okay. So here's the cool thing. Let's say you might narrow this search down a little bit more, right? I can come down here and, again, maybe select a certain industry. Or they went to a certain university. All right. Now, all these fields down here are closed off. This is for premium. This is one thing that it's nice to have the paid version of LinkedIn Especially a lot of us prospect maybe by company size. So this will show employee company size that, again, is information volunteered by the company when they're setting up their company profile. But you got to work with what you have here. So once you have this search set up, you can click right here in the right-hand corner, Save Search. Okay? Now, I already have my 3 saved searches set up. The free version of LinkedIn allows for 3 saved searches. I have mine for VP of Sales, Venture Capital and Private Equity, and CEOs and Owners, kind of like the search we were doing. If you do this, you'll get an option that says, do you want to work an alert weekly, monthly, or never? I have mine set up for weekly. And then when you're doing this, you'll see a green check mark right there. And you'll want to save that search. And now what happens is every single week, you will get an email from LinkedIn with everybody that fits the criteria of that search. So basically what I'm saying is you're going to get prospects emailed to your inbox every single week. All right? And then it's up to you to budget time in your calendar. And I can't emphasize that enough. You have to get this into your routine once, twice a week, that you sit down with those emails that you get from LinkedIn and go through. Now, this is my CEO or owner one. You notice I selected some certain industries here. But now when David pops up here, and maybe I'll choose a different one, when the founder at Virtual Private Capital, I can see our 4 shared connections, right? And I'm going to sit down and go ahead and call Andy Crestadina, because he's a hell of a guy, and see if he can make an introduction to J. Andrew Wallace for me. And now what's cool is when you're spending time prospecting, what are you doing? You're calling people you already know, right? You're building your network, and they're easy phone calls. Most salespeople anyway, dread picking up the phone. Even entrepreneurs, right? Part of your business is having to find new people, and this is the easiest way to do it. Because people that make decisions at companies probably have a LinkedIn profile, and they're out there connecting with other CEOs, owners, and presidents, okay? So mark it on your to-do list to set up these saved searches. They're so critical and allow you, again, to get prospects emailed directly to you, okay? And back in the chat room here, thanks, Anatoly, for putting that link up there on Boolean search. I would suggest everybody download that PDF form or just save it to your desktop and go back and just look at that. And when you're going to set up those saved searches, use this, okay? Before I wrap up here and go over some of my to-do lists, I want to share a few technologies also that I like to use just in conjunction with LinkedIn, okay? So some tech tools, okay? One, I've already told you about, not Hootsuite. I'm going to tell you that later. Newsly, right? Use newsly.com. Cool way to connect with your network. You gave it away. Hootsuite. And I believe that there's another one, and Anatoly or somebody else out there help me out. There's a few competitors to Hootsuite that I've heard about, blanking on it, but this will allow you to queue up all of your posts, right? And there's a free version of Hootsuite. You can sync up to 3 social media accounts. You know, for those in the B2B world, maybe it's your LinkedIn, your Twitter, and your Pinterest. I don't know. You know, for me, I use it for my LinkedIn posts. It allows me to go on a Sunday night, set them all up, and then set it and forget it, right? The next is an app called Sidekick, and something similar called Yesware. These are automatic email read receipts. Sidekick is for Outlook, all right? Yesware is more for Gmail, Google Apps, okay? I love this because, you know, right now the only way you can do that for Outlook is you have to request the read receipt, which I think is just a kind of an annoying thing to do. This one is more on the sly. It'll show people are reading and opening up your email, be it from their remote device or their PC or whatever it might be, and is a good way to kind of secret stalk people. And then another company out there, locally based company called Charlie App. This is a social media aggregator. This is an actual app for your phone. But if you're getting ready to step into a meeting with somebody, this pulls all of their social media into one user interface so you can see what they've recently been talking about. Fast-growing company here in Chicago, and you can download it as an individual user. I really like it. All right. So, we got a question. What does LinkedIn offer mass messaging first and second degree contacts since survey? You know, when you're doing messaging on LinkedIn, they just changed their interface on their inbox. And, you know, LinkedIn is making changes, it feels like, every single week, and they don't really send out announcements to tell you what's changed or what's different. There we go. So they're trying to turn it into more of a chat functionality here. I don't even know if there's a way to view your sent mail now out of LinkedIn. You know, I can simply click my unread or connections, but with the free version, you know, you can, when you type somebody's name, obviously, Anatoly, I keep using here as an example here. I think you can select up to 50 people at a time when sending out group messages. I think that's the commercial limit on the free version of LinkedIn. For the paid, maybe it's more. And it allows you to upload photos or attachments or things like that. So hopefully that answers your question there, Ken. Before I do my recap and kind of give you guys your homework assignment, after we do this, I want to go back and just look at any questions maybe I didn't cover that I got. One is percentage of emails that get replied to. How do it does not come off as spam? Not sure about the spam question. I heard that emails get anywhere from 60 to 70% response rate. I've also heard that if somebody doesn't open up your in-mail or they click not interested, you get that in-mail back. So when you do the paid version of LinkedIn, I think at the lowest level you get like 10 or 20 in-mails a month that you can use, again, for targeted outreach for people. Again, hopefully with the tricks that I showed you today, you don't need in-mails anymore, right? You can just do it through groups or through leveraging your first degree network a little bit. So, again, I'm going to give you your kind of to-do list, but one last big idea I want to talk about is I want you to go out and think about your network. Think of the 4 or 5 best networking partners that you have. All right, these are people that are probably also, and hopefully you are as well, responsible for bringing in new clients and getting out and meeting people. So as opposed to just getting together and having a coffee, your next few coffees you have with the best people, I want you to go have LinkedIn coffee meetings. And here's what you do, all right? You know, normally when I'm setting up a networking meeting with somebody, or in the past I should say, I would just say, hey, Anatoly, yeah, let's get together for a beer. Our offices are right next to each other, right? And you'll get together and you'll be like, here's what I'm doing, and Anatoly, here's what you're doing. That's great. Hey, if I think of somebody, I'll let you know. And then you shake hands, and then you try and think of somebody. But instead, what you do with the LinkedIn coffee meeting is I'll call up Anatoly and consider this a formal invite, Anatoly, is I'll say, let's have a LinkedIn coffee meeting. And I tell you what, Anatoly, before we sit down, I want you to hop on my LinkedIn profile. And I want you to search through my contacts, and I want you to write down 5, 10, 15 names of people that might look like good connections. I'm going to do the same. I'll tell you one thing. I've never had anybody say no to this request. Everybody loves this idea. And then I can go on here, and I did it earlier, and I can search. And I use those same practices of Boolean search technique. I can search CEO or president or founder and Chicago. All right. I got 238 results. I totally want to meet Matt Moog, Anatoly. Maybe you can make that introduction. So you can come right on here, and I'm going to start writing down names of people that look, right? I'm going to stay on the search. I'm just going to right-click. I'm going to open these people up in maybe a bunch of new tabs, right? I'm going to scroll through and look through all these CEOs and owners that Anatoly knows, and I'm going to show up to that meeting with Anatoly, and I'm going to have a list. Like I said, maybe I have 10 or 12 names, all right? I'm only going to pick the ones that I really want to meet. And what happens inevitably in that meeting is Anatoly will sit across from me and he'll take the piece of paper and he'll set it in front of me and he'll go, I don't know those 3 guys. Those are like random connections. No idea how I met them. And then he's going to look at a couple more names and he's going to go, I don't know if you want to meet that guy. He's kind of you know what, this guy over here, he's an old client. He didn't pay his bill. You don't want to meet that guy. But then he's going to look at the other 5 names and he's going to go, oh my gosh, like that guy's awesome. I used to work with him. They're a client. Absolutely, right? And you're going to each walk out of, and then I'm going to show him my list and he's going to do the same thing. And you'll both walk out of that meeting with 4 to 5 hand-picked, targeted connections, as opposed to kind of forcing Anatoly to think about people that are good contacts for me, right? I'm going to proactively. So this is a proactive form of networking as opposed to reactive, how most people do it, right? So this is your number 1 to do. Maybe I should start Tony's top to-dos. All right, this is your homework. 1, schedule some LinkedIn coffee meetings with your network. All right, again, start this with people you know the best. All right, you don't want to do this with the first time you're going to meet somebody. All right. Number 2, set up those saved searches. All right, you have 3 of them. Do it. All right. Polish your profile up. All right. What did I talk about is most important? Good picture, good headline. I don't know why my spacing is like that. Sorry. And well-written first-person summary. Add some personal interest. All right. I really think those are 4 of the biggest things that you can do as you polish up your profile. You know, you can do little things like, you know, your custom URL, right? These are little things to polish up your profile, making sure your contact info is complete. Some other Tony's top to-dos, all right? I'm going to tell you, always personalize your connection requests, all right? Give people context. And the last thing, you know, what's the Einstein quote, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and again, expecting different results. So the number 1 complaint I hear from salespeople and from entrepreneurs is I'm not meeting enough people, right? So you need to habitualize, and I'll spell that right, your use, all right? Habitualize. You know what? I'm going to leave it just like that. I don't care if Word's telling me it's spelled right. Habitualize your use. All right. Block out time in your calendar. Right. Let's say, example, you set your saved searches up for right today. You go do this as soon as you hop off this conference call. You're going to get your weekly pings on Thursday afternoon. Maybe Friday mornings from 8 to 10 o'clock every single week. You budget time to look through your saved search, get on LinkedIn, and start doing that. Right. So find a way to work LinkedIn usage into your weekly routine. Only then are you really going to get the power of what can be done. All right. So, time is it here? It is 4:28. Any initial, or I should say final questions via chat that you might have that I didn't cover today? Marlene, this webinar did get recorded. I'm not sure if Big Marker or Paradigm Next is planning on sending it out, but for prosperity's sake, it's certainly recorded. We could probably get a copy of it out. Okay. Well, hey, one more. Could you repeat the other? Anatoly is going to send that out. That's great. The one application, and I'll just type the link here, Newsly is something that you can tie in with your LinkedIn. And there are CRM applications out there, Salesforce being one of them, that you can tie in your LinkedIn account and have it work in conjunction. But Newsly is the main kind of plug-in one that I use quite a bit. Well, hey, the last thing I'll say is for everybody that's listening out there, thanks for your questions. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Personalize your request. Tell me that you're on the webinar. And if you'd like a few, some personal insights on your profile, if you want my 2 cents on critiquing it, I'm happy to do that. And then if we covered something, or if we didn't cover something today that maybe you'd like to talk about, go ahead and send me an email, Tony@Sales Empowerment Group. Put that up here in the chat as well. And can't promise I'll get back to you today, but I will get back to you with anything that question you might have. All right. So hope this leads to a lot of success for everybody. Again, LinkedIn is the place to strike a personal chord with your audience and fill your pipeline with quality prospects. So have a great rest of the week, and thanks, everybody.